Well, this podcast really is about your experiences as students during the coronavirus pandemic. We turn to you first, Lewis. Just talk us through briefly your first sort of experiences of the pandemic as a student. What was it like for you?
It was an odd time because the announcement came. Obviously, we could see the coronavirus coming and we knew there was a pandemic on the way. And then the university announced a week before the lockdown began that that they'd be closing the university. So immediately I thought I'll have to shoot home. So I did shoot home to Wales the day after to make sure I entered lockdown at home because I didn't want to be stranded in Nottingham alone then.
And a lot of students were, especially overseas students, weren't they?
Yes, of course, yes. So some of them went abroad and some of them will have decided to stay on campus and live through the lockdown alone.
Mm. A lot of people would have this is completely alien to most people, the fact that this pandemic has closed so many places down. How much have you suffered as a result? Were you able to continue with your studies and life sort of relatively as normal? What were the big changes to your life?
Well, the big changes were adapting to doing the course from home then. So because broadcast journalism is such a practical course, there were a few adjustments to be made, and doing things like radio production or television production had to be scrapped, and we moved to doing online articles from the comfort of our own homes then. So that was quite an adjustment, but I think the university did well and responded well, considering how short of a time they had to prepare for that.
So, Lucy, how long have you spent working with Llanelli Online?
So I worked like all of last summer, I think from like May until I went back to uni in September. And then I just came back this year and, I had no plans. I just wanted to do something with my time. So I thought I'd come back. I really enjoy it. Just processing PRs, trying my best to find like some unique news and stuff. But just stuff like that.
And would you have got a chance to do this otherwise, in your local area? Did you try and get placements anywhere? Or?
No, well, this was like really the best option for me, like especially this summer, because my plan was originally to do a year-long placement out of uni, but then because of COVID, loads of placements got cancelled and stuff like that. But I still really wanted to get the experience, so I thought coming back here would be the best.
And we were already sort of set up working remotely, so this was nothing new to you then. You were of used to it.
I was used to this. Yeah, this was really the best option for me, and I'm just really glad that I was able to come back.
And has it helped with your studies? Have you been able to implement a lot of what you've sort of learned along the way?
Yeah, I realised that a lot in second year actually, where I would be doing assignments and things, and I felt like I kind of had a little step up because what we were doing was something that I'd already done with you over summer. So I kind of was able to use that experience and actually apply it to uni and work and stuff like that.
And same for you, Scott. What you've got a first, congratulations. And
Thank you.
I can't claim that anything I've done has helped along the way there, but you did do a lot with us. You did a lot of technical stuff. You did a lot of interviewing, a lot of putting things together. A valuable time you spent with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you sort of threw me in the deep end a few times, but it served to build my confidence quite a lot. A lot of our assignments in my course involved going out there, finding your own stories and doing your own interviews. And so having the chance to do it there with your guidance and support it showed itself, really. I was able to do it like no sweat or no nerves or anything like that.
And that's quite an issue, isn't it? I mean, confidence is one of the key things when you're putting yourself out there, especially interviewing just anybody. But when you've interviewed senior politicians, or as you had the opportunity to do with us, police commissioner and so on, I guess that does help a lot.
Yeah, and in particular, when you have to declare that you're a student as well when you're doing these assignments. And so you have to have a bit of charm and confidence for them to actually say yes to interviewing you. So it did help in that regard as well.
You've come back to us for a couple of weeks at least. You must like us to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's real journalism here, so that's what I did the course for. So, it's the sort of happy ending to it all. Yeah, I think it's really shown how sparse local news is in Wales. I think Wales in particular is having an issue in terms of the wider UK. You find a lot of cities will have their own local outlets, but like a lot of the forgotten towns, there's just nothing there. And so hyperlocal publications like this are sort of filling that niche now.
Lewis has come and joined us for 2 weeks. We've done a podcast this morning. We'll add some of this in really to... we were talking about, Lewis, the possibility of this kind of model stretching out, maybe extending across Wales, giving people the opportunity. You've struggled to get an opportunity to find placements, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been difficult at times, and especially when you come home, because one thing I've noticed of coming home to living, in Llanelli, which is near Carmarthen during the lockdown, is you have to look further afield for placements. So Llanelli Online really has given me an opportunity for a placement that's within Carmarthenshire and within a reasonable distance of my home. Otherwise, for the bigger broadcasters or newspapers or news websites, you have to look further afield towards Swansea or Cardiff.
And you're a Welsh speaker as well, and obviously this is the heartland of a Welsh-speaking community in Carmarthenshire. You're looking forward to sort of utilising those skills and bringing that element to... Do you think there is a dearth of Welsh language content in Wales in the media?
I think, well, obviously we have S4C across Wales, and we have, BBC Cymru and ITV Cymru that all do their contribution to the Welsh language. But I think it's important that we do sort of bring more attention to the Welsh language, and that you do have more news reporting in the Welsh language. I think it's important because I know the Welsh language is obviously a minority language, but at the same time there is an audience there to be served, and I think, to make sure that the language goes from strength to strength and the Welsh communities do, I think, journalism in the Welsh medium, well, it does have to go.
What have been the positives and negatives for you, Scott?
Well, I fled particularly early, left Southampton straight back to Llanelli like around mid-March before they started properly locking everything down. And I suppose just the ability to work at home in proximity to my family was quite nice, nice little change, particularly with something like a dissertation that you tend to just sort of tap away at a keyboard for long hours. And so that being in a comfortable environment was pretty good there. But it was quite highly disruptive. A lot of the practical side of the course had to just sort of be restructured or put on hold as a result. So it was highly disruptive.
And so those were the negatives for you in general. The social interaction, the face-to-face?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm somewhat introverted for the most part, so I don't particularly mind being cooped up too much. So I do feel for the sort of extrovert types that are just sort of locked away in a flat in a city somewhere, and like they just can't. They're desperate to go out and socialise, but they just can't.
Elkanah, you were in Coleg Sir Gar, and we know that shut down as well. What were the kind of notifications? What were the experiences like for you?
Well, I suppose it wasn't what we expected. Initially, we thought that maybe the colleges would have stayed open a bit longer, but as soon as news started coming in that it was spreading, and we expected the worst, and we were notified on the gateway, the college gateway, that the college would be closing, that we had to collect our stuff within the period of weeks coming up to the deadline when the college would be closed.
Most people we know they keep in touch, don't they, by social media. So I guess you weren't affected too much in that way. You did, with your friendships and so on. But the face-to-face, how much did that impact on you in losing that face-to-face contact with your friends, Elkanah?
It's been a big impact, for sure. Not seeing people who, I spend my time with on most days, usually during the week. It has been a big impact. The social aspect of things has gone downhill in that aspect, where now that people aren't face to face with one another, I suppose it's become less frequent with contact with other people.
And Lucy, you for the positives and negatives of the pandemic?
Well, I was one of the people who enjoyed going outside and spending as much time as possible with my friends and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed the whole uni experience as well, just going to lectures and stuff like that. It was just something I enjoyed. So then uni closed down 2 weeks before the rest of the country closed. And suddenly everyone was leaving and all our lectures were put online. And my uni really struggled with the technology side of it. Just putting lectures online and stuff and doing things on time and holding Zoom meetings. So I think I actually went probably 3 to 4 weeks not really having any lectures and just getting a random email a week from some people telling me to do this piece of work. So it was really disruptive, but at the same time, it really did help me learn to be more independent with my education, because I had to take my own initiative to go and do everything myself, not have lecturers on my back telling me to do this, to do that and stuff. So I guess that's a positive, that it did make me more independent in my learning.
I think they were sort of playing along with whatever the government was saying. They weren't really being proactive with what was clearly about to happen. I mean, the signs were pretty much there in mid-February at the earliest that it was going to.
I feel there was a lot of denial going on.
Yeah.
The unis just didn't really want to accept that this was eventually going to happen. So nothing was in place and nothing was prepared for.
So have you asked for your money back?
Yeah. To be fair, on my course, we're quite a small course. There's only about 50 of us.
Yeah.
So we all sort of got together and we tried to speak to our lecturers and speak to the uni about, because we didn't feel we were getting education that was value for money if we're only getting a random email a week from people.
Typical students complaining all the time, wanting a refund.
Obviously. We wouldn't be students if we didn't. But yeah, obviously nothing like that's going to happen. It was useless effort.
So I know there is some legal challenge, isn't there, that students are trying to mount for everyone in the country?
Right. Yeah, I've seen petitions and stuff go around on Facebook and other social medias, but I don't know, I'm not feeling very optimistic about it, to be honest.
So here we are, we're in July, and we are doing really what, we've always been doing. Skyping, we were Facebooking Live, we were Periscoping, we were sort of engaging with each other remotely. Do you think now that this really is going to be the norm and life will really not be the same again for you in university and in the workplace and in your social environment?
I don't know, I hope eventually things get back to a somewhat normal state, but I think at the same time we need to take the lessons that this whole experience has provided and we need to fully implement them. We need to embrace technology more, definitely, because that's been a big thing, not just for universities, for news, for care homes and stuff like that. All these different organizations have started fully embracing technology. And I think that's something that we need to keep going. That's definitely a positive that's come out of this.
And Lewis, you were home. Were you able to sort of continue with your studies? Were you keeping in touch with the tutors and the coursework and so on?
Yes, luckily enough, they had this setup put together then where we had a similar sort of Zoom, Skype setup. We were using Microsoft Teams and we were keeping in touch, doing some virtual lectures online and from the laptops then. So we did keep in touch with a lot of our lecturers, and to be fair, they were always on hand, ready to give some advice or assistance. But keeping in touch with friends, as Alcana said, it's more of a challenge, of course, because you can't see them face to face. But at least we do have the social media that does allow us to keep in touch from long distances. Then,
and you're going back after the holidays now.
Yeah.
What kind of changes are you expecting to be in place?
Well, the university now, Nottingham Trent, they've said that. Big lectures then might move online or will probably move online for the foreseeable future, but then smaller seminar groups will be allowed to meet in classrooms. So I think we'll see an end to the big lecture theatres possibly. But, other than that, hopefully life can go back to normal and hopefully we don't see a second spike.
What would you say, Alcina, have been the major negatives and positives of the coronavirus pandemic?
Some of the major negatives are obviously the lack of social life that has become evident through the lockdown, and how things that I suppose we took for granted really have become things that we really want to get back to and really want to be part of our lives again. Like, I know for a good few weeks now I've been missing the simple act of getting on the bus and, saying thank you to the bus driver. It's something that I think I took for granted for the most part of the commute to college, and now looking back I'm thinking, God, I should have been taken a moment just to appreciate all those moments more. And I think when it comes to positives, I think a lot of people say, oh well, this is going to have a big impact on the way we see things in the future. We're going to be more grateful, we're going to change our ways and be more considerate. But when push comes to shove, I think when things go back to normal, I think people will have the same outlooks, the same attitude of taking things for granted, and it'll just be life as usual. Life goes on.
And for you, Lewis?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. We've been seeing recently, especially in England now, with lockdown starting to be eased, people immediately taking things for granted, and it's almost as if a lockdown never happened in the first place. So I think, personally, I think I will take life, and be more grateful for the little things in life. Like you said, maybe just thanking the bus driver and little things like that. I think we should appreciate what we've got and really reflect and think, okay, well, let's make the most of what we've got and not what we don't have.
It does beg the question, though, Elkanah, in that do we really need all this kind of travelling and face-to-face and going away to university if you can do this online, as been proved with Zoom and Skype and Facebook Live and so on? And, would you feel more comfortable staying here in your cosy home here in one of the Garrick and studying your university course?
Well, I think going away to a university and living on site in accommodation has more of an impact on the way that we approach learning. It's the daily ritual of getting up, making breakfast and commuting to the university that really helps with progressing with the studies more effective. And I find that when I'm home doing my studies, I find that I spend less time studying and more time doing practical work around the house, because I'm not faced with the daily ritual that I'm used to: getting up, catching the bus, getting into college, and having a coffee before the morning lesson starts, and being introduced to the lessons by the lecturer face to face. I find that face to face stuff is a way more effective way of teaching students rather than online. But that's just my opinion. I'm much more of a practical person and face-to-face person when it comes to learning.
Getting up in the morning isn't something that's very favourable for students, Lewis, is it? Is he sort of speaking the truth there about this? Have you got differing views on whether or not this can be, we need to change the future for many, many facets of life, and that we've really been slow to embrace what technology has always been there?
Yeah, well, the technology's there, of course, and we've really been making the most of it during this pandemic. But I do think what Elkanah said is important as well. Face-to-face interaction, not just with lectures and commuting or getting up early, just seeing people and having that interaction is important because, us as humans, we're social beings. We enjoy the company of others. I don't know how long the universities plan to do more online lectures and things like that, but hopefully, the generations to come will be able to have that face-to-face experience, because I think it is important, and that's what older generations cherish.
Lewis, talking about the media industry, are you optimistic? Do you think that the jobs are there? Is it the kind of industry you want to go into at the moment, or do you think changes need to be made and young people need to be there in order to do that?
I think with the media industry, it's really going through an interesting time, particularly now during the coronavirus pandemic. And I definitely want to work in the broadcast or media industries in particular. But the thing is, I think a lot of people might be scared at the moment. We're seeing cutbacks to jobs. only recently we've seen in radio, as an example, cutbacks to jobs and less people having to work. But the thing is, I think you have to keep optimistic during these times and think, well, I know there may be less jobs, but we have to think there still will be jobs out there. And if you really want to work in the media industry, go for it, give it your best shot.
Do you value this kind of experience, with a small hyperlocal like ourselves?
Oh, certainly. There's a very big, important role for hyperlocal papers or news websites such as yourself to play, and I'm so glad that you've offered this opportunity. And I know, we're all taking our precautions of hand sanitising. We all know we're doing that track and trace system, but it is important that life does sort of carry on, and that local news carries on as well.
And Elkanah, with your media studies, what are you hoping to sort of gain from that?
I suppose my overall goal is to become a self-employed director for my own productions and make my way onto small film festivals and make my way from there, and hopefully get recognised as a aspiring talent in the media industry. Hopefully,
I'm kind of glad that I finished uni when I did, because I imagine next year is going to be a lot of remote lectures and possible outbreaks in October when everyone moves there. Because there's the infamous freshers flu. It's going to be freshers COVID, isn't it?
Oh gosh,
it's almost inevitable. As well with the whole vaccine stuff, that they do tout that it's making great progress and things. But I mean, even if it arrived in like January of next year, it would be the fastest vaccine ever produced.
Well, that's great. It's a little insight in the podcast into life for university students.
Thanks for speaking to us. It's good to know that we've played some small part in the development of your career and education. Excellent that Scott's got a first. I'm sure Lucy will do equally well and let us know. Lewis is on his third year as well.
And Elkanah Evans, who's off to Aberystwyth.
Hopefully, between between us all, we can help him along as well while he's here for 2 weeks and come up with some unique news and perspectives on life after the lockdown. But thank you very much. We'll pass this on to Google and to the Public Interest News Foundation. They'd be very happy to know that we are doing what we said we were doing. So thanks again for speaking to us, and just keep in touch.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.